Welcome. Monday, January 27th, regular meeting of the TAK City Council. I'll wait for everybody to take their seats. I know everybody's happy that we're back for the new year. You missed us. It's been over a month since we've done this last time, right? So it's a big day. We're gonna bring in two newly elected that are still only elected members of City Council, and potentially a new, is this on? Hello, is this on? A new Mayor Pro Tem. But let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Will you all please rise?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, glasses don't fail me now. Let's see. All right, let's start with the oaths of office. Judge Bice, if you can render the oaths to Gus Machinas and Ryan Richard, please.
No, I think we're doing them separate. And then I think you were going to be over here. No? Okay. Okay. Well, if you could put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. And you can read along if you'd like to. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state and of the United States.
the Constitution of this state and of the United States.
As councilman of the city of TKK,
As councilman of the city of TKK,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and skill,
and skill,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
and will use my best endeavor
and will use my best endeavor
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to the law,
according to law,
the purposes for which
the purposes for which
I have been elected.
I have been elected.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. All right. If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I've been elected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state and of the United
the
States.
Constitution of this state and of the United States.
As councilman of the city of TKK,
As councilman of the city of TKK,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
I will equally, fairly, and impartially,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and skill,
and skill,
exercise the trust reposed
exercise the trust
in me,
reposed in me,
and will use my best endeavor
and will use my best endeavor
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to law,
according to law,
the purposes for which
the purposes for which
I have been elected.
I have been elected.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Leave it to a Marine to get tongue-tied there. All right. Thanks again, Judge. Let's go with item number 2, the election of the Mayor Pro Tem. Let me just read this from our TAK Code of Ordinances to understand how we do our Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem election and duty. The council shall, at the first meeting of the newly constituted council after any general election for municipal council, elect one of its members as mayor pro tem for a term of 2 years. It shall be the duty of the mayor pro tem to act as mayor during the absence or disability of the mayor, or in any case of vacancy of the office of mayor. With that,
Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to nominate Gus Machunas as mayor pro tem with a term starting today and running until January 22nd, 2022. Thank you. Sorry. Not a week ago.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan Richard. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Now for the ceremonial changing of seats and all the
Changing of the
computer
guard.
gears and all that kind of stuff that you got to do.
Yep.
Got to.
I should have plugged in.
While they're doing that, I'll just thank Heather for the last 2 years. She's been my mayor pro tem. She's been awesome. Whenever there's something I couldn't attend for whatever reason, she was always there. She never missed a single time that I asked her to do something. And I really appreciate it. It's very important to have a good mayor pro tem. And although I hate losing Heather, I'm sure Gus will be just fine. And I'll put him to the test shortly.
Are you sure?
I am sure. It might be next month. All the way down there. I did just notice it says, in the absence or disability of the mayor, you take over for the job, so
There's a good chance that disability thing's pretty quick.
That's not far away.
mental disability even counts, I think, so. All right, let's go to item number 3, public comments. Tom, come on up here and talk to us about beaver infestation. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Tom Tremblay, 1746 Colville Lane, TDK. Before I start, could I pass out some photos for
Sure.
you guys? I'm here to speak about the invasive beavers that are destroying the ecosystem of the pond adjacent to Chestnut Hill Drive. The forested city land surrounding the lake is being destroyed at an alarming rate, and the city is choosing to ignore it. In June of last year, I noticed the trees being cut down, so I immediately notified the city. Chad Holland responded that they would investigate and determine a possible solution. Several weeks later, I alerted the city that some of the damaged trees threatened to fall on our private property. Mr. Holland replied that he would discuss this with the operations director. Having heard nothing after several more weeks, I sent the matter to the mayor, who forwarded it to the city manager. Including the operations director in his response, the manager noted that it was the city's longstanding practice to allow beavers to remain in their natural habitat and that they do not set traps on private property. I reminded him that the damage was on city property. The operations director added that they would monitor the area and may take measures to prevent more damage. I do not know what monitoring has been done, but I can attest that as of today, the area continues to be decimated. Just behind my house alone, no less than 75 trees have been cut down by the beavers and more damaged. I want to point out a few facts. First, this area is not the beavers' original natural habitat. We've lived here for 15 years, and this is the first year we've been invaded. Beavers are the largest invasive rodent in North America that can threaten the natural habitat of other species and the ecosystem of an entire area. Due to deforestation around the pond, there has been a loss of bird nesting sanctuaries and other wildlife's natural elemental protections. South Carolina Department of Natural Resources has strict standards for sedimentation control, something that has vanished in this area. The loss of vegetation has increased runoff, and the pond now fills with more sediment than ever before. You can see it in the photographs. The beavers are dragging trees into the pond, disrupting the natural water flow that eventually spills under Chestnut Hill Drive to Lake Wiley. And this is not a unique situation. SCDNR confirms that they will work with cities by issuing trapping permits to remove nuisance beavers, but confirms TGK has not yet done so. Without a doubt, if nothing is done, the damage will be irreparable. Council must address this by determining if they will uphold the tree protection mission that once regarded us as a tree city and the ecosystem standard it imposes upon its citizens in order to protect a rodent which has invaded the land. It is my recommendation that you immediately implement a plan to get rid of the beavers by working with SCDNR to trap and remove them. I have spoken to them, and I have the name and the number of the DNR officer assigned to this region who has offered to help. And just as a side note, one of those, the first photo that has the picture of the lake on front and back also has time stamp. That was off a GIS, a date stamp. You'll notice in one, I think it's February 14th, the first one. There, and then the one on the other side, I think it's February 28th. This was last year. There's 2 trees in the water on the second one. That's when they started. I was able to determine that just from the GIS mapping. So I appreciate your time, and I answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions, everybody?
Do we know what the regulations are around this, around beaver management?
I do agree with Mr. Tremblay that DNR does have has a permitting process for it. It's not something that the city has ever entertained when it's come up from previous folks, mainly on the lake, having shoreline in the past. It's not something the city has pursued, but I do know they do one, absolutely, but I'm not familiar with it, but we could definitely research that and get that information back to council.
Do we have jurisdiction over this
With
area?
the proper permit from DNR, yes, ma'am.
If you notice on the picture on the front one, there's the property lines associated. Everything that's outside of that property line there around the pond is city land.
Yeah, that particular pond, and I'm not sure if it's a natural pond or if it was a created pond as part of the golf course. I'd have to double check on that.
What number green is that right there?
Oh, gosh.
That's in between as you go by 17, 18.
17?
Yes, sir.
The lower right-hand corner of the
I-
picture
I-
is Chestnut Hill Drive.
Gotcha. I know that. Now that I see it, not just that I.
It's
I
the
know
one
that.
way in the distance of that,
In
whatever.
fact, I can still see some of my golf balls in the water there.
There's some in our yard, too.
Yeah.
Well, I've noticed as well, and Dave, you lived on the water since the invention of time here in TGK, so you could attest to it a bit, but has anybody else that spends a lot of time on the lake just noticed this year the beavers? I just know because my dogs run down the lake in the evening and the beaver plays a game with them. And it's the first time in 10 years of me living here that there's ever been a beaver in the cove. So I don't know
We've had beavers in our cove before.
I know
After
they've
we
been
lost a couple of
sporadically
trees.
here, but
Yeah.
but unfortunately with this, it's kind of landlocked, and so they're kind of making a haven out of it.
Yes.
And they're dragging those trees in there. They're creating these things called lodges, and pretty soon they're going to have, it's going to take away the whole idea of the lake.
we have dealt with them city staff-wise at the marina where they've dammed up in the past. I don't know that it's been anything recently. And when Lake Ridge, the bulk of Lake Ridge was under construction where our sewer big gravity line is, they were damming that up on a frequent basis and flooding that area where we were constantly busting up the beaver dams. The USDA issued a grant a few years ago where DOT actually came in and eradicated some beavers around New Gray Rock Road because they were causing flooding on the road. Trapper came in, he had to get our permission to get on city property and whatnot to set traps. So it has been done in this area. It's just not something that the city has pursued. But
Well,
if that's
beavers are
something council
protected
wants to do,
animals,
we
right?
can.
So we can't
Go ahead.
we have to have a permit before we do anything. We
That is
can't just
correct.
go in and do anything. We can't,
Correct. We'd have
we
to get a
can't even
permit.
hire a trapper until we get, the
Yeah,
state tells us.
But like I said, this guy who I've spoken to, and I can give you his name and number, he said, you just need to call him and he'll issue it. It's not a, he does it quite frequently. His name is Jeff Visage.
I mean, Charlie, I was just gonna say, could we at least look into it? I know we've had people in here with various nuisance animals, and there's regulations about them, and sometimes they're friendly regulations, and sometimes they're like impossible. As when people were complaining about deer, the only way to do anything is to bring in snipers. So, I mean, could we at least look into it, though?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be glad. We can make contact with
nuisance
DNR and provide that information back to council.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize where you live, but I've been contacted by the 2 neighbors that live on either side of that pond, as well, with the same issue. So.
Oh, you have? Okay, good. Well, great. Yeah, I'm right there at, it says 1746 there, yeah. Yeah, and some of those photos I took are from the other side. And I know some of those properties do actually have private property abutting the lake, and so they would need to maybe work with the city and trying to get them trapped on their property. I'm not exactly sure how those property lines lay out, but that whole swath behind us, I mean, the pine trees they don't like, but you can see they damage them to the point where they're gonna kill them. And the other ones are just chopping down. There's even one shot in there of a log that's still sitting out there that they're just practicing on, I guess. They're trying to cut in half.
Is this actually considered the lake, or is this like a pond?
It's a
'Cause
pond.
Okay. Okay.
It does have a to answer your question, it has a man-made drainage system that flows, and goes
Yeah.
under the.
It was a sediment pond, I believe, that Newland installed when they were doing Lakeshore and specifically the Grandview 9. And yeah, it's got a spillway emergency overflow that goes under Chestnut Hill and discharges out towards Lake Wiley.
It somehow has a natural flow because it never really goes down substantially, so there's enough water coming in, and whether it's natural drainage or whatever.
It accepts a lot of stormwater from the Chestnut Hill and over Fairway Point, all those areas. It's a pretty big drainage.
So when you say
right
we've taken care of this before, how do we take care of it? You said we've had to do something with beavers in the past?
South Carolina DOT did. The only thing that city has done is just bust up beaver dams where it was causing flooding, where they had,
I see.
taken down wood and dammed it up and were causing some property damage in the way of flooding. We've sent staff in to just bust up the dams, but we have not done any beaver trapping
Okay,
or
so
removal. So
are you going to take that on as an
I
action?
I will get all the information from DNR involved with the permitting and get some pricing back and push that back to council for consideration.
And since you have all the information, just email him
Happy-
and get him all the
happy
stuff.
to do
He might already have it, but just to
Yeah,
make
just send it
sure.
to me, Tom, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thanks, Tom.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Let's go to action. Item number 4 is approval of minutes. Council, you've been emailed the minutes. Is there any additions, deletions, subtractions, changes? Seeing none, the minutes stand as written. Item number 5 is committee reports, TK Forever Foundation with Heather.
TK Forever met on January 13th of this year. From the sponsorship and subcommittee update, we have a finalized meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 with Comporium in Rock Hill, so we'll hopefully make some headway there. Charlotte Independence meeting is scheduled for Wednesday at 10 a.m. We are meeting, our committee is meeting with founders, I believe, this month. And we've also put in an application for funding to Atrium in the amount of $750,000 for, I believe, the trails portion. So that's kind of where the subcommittee is. The committee is also working to garner those park and rec sponsorships every year, to put on our park and rec programs, which looks like we will have the largest we've ever had this year. They have to garner sponsorships for that, so they're working towards that as well. Couple events coming up. I've been working my tail off on. So February 8th, we are having the Sweetheart Dance. It'll be upstairs. That's a family-friendly event, so moms, dads, sons, daughters, grandparents, whomever, please come. All proceeds will benefit Catawba Park. Sunday bar, DJ, photo booth, cookie decorating, art stations, you name it. March 28th, we have rescheduled Bark for Catawba Park, so that will take place on that date. And then we just released Taste of York County will take place on Friday, April 24th. And I think that's it. Yeah. Tickets are limited, and they will sell out fast, so get it now.
Any other questions or comments? Let's go to item B, the Economic Development Commission with Gus.
Sarah, buy those tickets today. They're selling fast. Okay, the EDC met on January the 20th. We did have a quorum. We discussed retail consultants. A couple firms have already been looked at. There's a lot of data to collect and examine in terms of bringing people in to market our undeveloped and underdeveloped areas. We don't have the staff or the resources to do so. So the goal was to find retailers that fit us, reach out to them, market them to us, and us to them. Ashley was going to look at similar size cities and the consultants that they have used and what successes and failures that they have had. And then we talked about doing an RFP to companies once they had discussed enough of them to get the good data. Ashley also mentioned it was possibility, and Charlie, maybe you could help with this, that Esri may have some of this data if we could learn how to mine it. Discussed the joint use zoning update in the subcommittee for it. And Jim asked that the members of the EDC get a little more involved in the community and maybe look at some of the other various volunteer boards that we have in neighboring communities, Fort Mill and York County. Set the meetings for the fourth Monday of every month. And that's about it.
I think you bored your daughters.
I did. They're gone. They went to buy tickets to Taste of
Oh, they
York
would buy
County.
tickets. Very good, very
They're
good.
selling lemonade and used golf balls out front. Please.
All right, thank you, Gus. Item number 5, Planning Commission with Alicia.
All right. Well, we had a very long but productive meeting on January 6th. The Planning Commission approved the final plat for Trinity Point Phase 1 after some discussions and sharing some concerns over erosion control issues that council's well aware of. We discussed a draft public art policy for the city that the Planning Commission is taking a deeper dive into right now to look at and provide feedback on this policy and how we can utilize it to incorporate more public art into our spaces around the city. They plan on bringing that to our February city council meeting for recommendation pending all the final changes and whatnot can get worked out by their February meeting. They agreed to their 2020 work plan items and priorities, and which I'll share what some of their priorities are for this year. They discussed the current city policy to allow approvals of final plats for development prior to the completion, which is an item on our agenda today that we'll be discussing. Basically, developers are currently required to bond the completion of these infrastructure items using a letter of credit or surety bond that council approves. And from what I understand and reading into this, our city attorney sent us an email outlining this and talking to us about how the city of TK is unique with this policy. And then we heard a staff report on the December development status and new business starts in Stonecrest Village, and then some of the parcels formerly housing the Dixie Pig and the Salon off of Gold Hill Road. The Planning Commission discussed the other Planning Commission groups throughout the area and trying to figure out how can we get some representation into the other areas that are within our community. So when does the Fort Mill Planning Commission meet? When does York County Planning Commission meet? Figuring out how we can get some of our planning commissions out there, engaged with the community members, finding out what are they working on, what developments are in front of them, and how can we best partner to make sure that where our borders touch and come together, that we're being very thoughtful about what's being approved and what's being looked at. So very excited about that and really appreciate the Planning Commission's efforts there, because that means that they'll each at least have to attend another 2 to 3 hour meeting a month on top of all the work that they're already putting into it. So Planning Commission, it's a fun job, but it's also a lot of hard work too. So I'm very appreciative of that. And then lastly, I'll just mention what their top priorities are. And I know that we've talked a little bit about this and we've shared with council what their work plan was looking like, but their top priorities that they are identified was the development of a new zoning ordinance for proposed mixed-use districts, recommended, in the comprehensive plan update. And I know that's something that Heather and I are working on, thanks to Heather's leadership there. Review the current overlay districts, so Marina District, the Arts and Entertainment District, and some of the others in conjunction with the new mixed-use districts. Continued liaison activities as per TK Economic Development, Fort Mill School District, York County, et cetera, and then establish a public art ordinance. And so council will look forward to some more discussion about the public art ordinance when we get to council comments as well. Next meeting will be February 3rd, 6:30 in this room, so I welcome you all to attend, and thanks again to the Planning Commission and Susan for all your hard work.
Thank you, Alicia. Since you mentioned it, Dixie Pig and the Salon was sold recently. Any idea what the plans are for those buildings?
Met with the prior owner late last week. The immediate plans are the salon will stay open, and the new owner is considering some upfits for a potential new restaurant, basically just going through the kitchen to see what could be supported in there. Again, that's the short-term plans right now, at least that was shared with me with the prior owner. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Have you met with the new owners?
Not at this time. The prior owner is supposed to be sending me the contact information
Yeah.
so we can get together with them.
Obviously, like you always have before, bend over backwards for them and so we want a new restaurant in there as soon as possible.
We'll do everything we can to help expedite that process,
Thank you
sir.
very much. All right, let's go to item 6, unfinished business, 6A. This is the second reading of an ordinance to adopt and amend the TAK 2015 through 2025 Comprehensive Plan as mandated by South Carolina Local Government Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act of 1994 as amended, and to provide for the repeal of all prior comprehensive plans and ordinance. At the last meeting, the Planning Commission and City Council held a public hearing on the required update to the 2015-2025 Comprehensive Plan. Following the hearing, Planning Commission recommended the approval of the update, and Council did approve the introduction of the first reading of this ordinance and the update of the plan. Do I have any questions or comments from the council? Any from the audience? Any questions or comments? All right. How about a motion?
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I would like to make a motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance to adopt and amend the TKK 2015 to 2025 Comprehensive Plan as mandated by the South Carolina Local Government Comprehensive Planning Enabling Act of 1994 as amended, and to provide for the repeal of all prior comprehensive plans and ordinances.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments before we vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. Item 6B is introduction of the first reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS 584-09-01-005, which is in the Marina District from R15 and Marina Overlay District to B1 and Marina Overlay District. The owner of the TAK Marina also owns the subject property and the adjacent residential property located at 28001 Marina Drive. The applicant intends to use this property as the administrative offices for the marina. In order to do so, the base residential zoning must be changed from B1 to permit this commercial use. And we had this last time that we postponed this we tabled it till this time to answer some questions. Did everybody get their questions answered or anything that they were concerned about?
So I'll talk to this item. Well, I think it'd be great if we could just get a quick update in terms of some of the questions that one of the residents raised about signage and handicap parking regarding this and how that will be handled in this area. So Susan, sorry, but do you mind coming up? I know that you've had some conversations about this. Do you mind just helping to inform everyone about some of those things and how they would be handled? And then while I'm waiting for her to come up, I'll give her a minute to put her thoughts together. So I appreciate that this item was put on hold so that we could have more dialogue about it. My concerns on this particular rezoning is based on the fact that we're requesting to rezone a property that is currently residential, that's in between two other residential properties, and we're asking to rezone it to commercial. So that means that once we make this decision, although the intent right now is for the property to be used as administrative offices, and that we do have some protection with the Marina Overlay District, there are some uses that wouldn't necessarily be something that you might want in right next to you as a neighbor. And so those were my concerns, and I've had lots of conversations with the property owner, and he's been great, and we've been trying to figure out what really is the best solution here, because we certainly don't want to impede development, but I do see that there are opportunities for us to take a different route and more gradually rezone properties as we come up, if that's the ultimate plan and the wish of council, versus rezoning sporadic properties that don't have any consistent flow, in my opinion. we've always got to think about the risks that are involved when we are approving these rezonings. And although that initial intent might be good and positive and what we want, there's always the risk that the plan development might not come through as originally thought. And so what are the implications if it doesn't? And so those are some of the things that I've been weighing and just kind of struggling with and trying to figure out how do we find a solution. I'm not there yet. I'm not sure if the timing's right, from my opinion. And I think ultimately, if it comes to fruition and everything is planned, it'll be great, and I support that development. I'm just not sure that right now, from my opinion, the research, the conversations that I've had to this point, that I'm at a comfort level that I'd like to be in approving this, and that right now would be the best thing for the community, so.
So what were some of the specific questions?
So some of the specific questions that the neighbor raised was around signage. So how would signage be handled with this commercial property in between two residential properties?
Commercial properties, under your sign regulations in section 19-137 of the zoning code, specifies for the commercial properties is per street frontage. So the signs can only be on property on the side facing the street access, which would be the area where Marina Drive comes through and crosses through the parking lot. I believe there were also questions regarding parking. So for the intended office use, you would have to have one handicap parking space on site. They can use the adjacent marina parking for use, for overflow parking, but they would have to have at least one handicap space located on the property. The marina overlay really limits what sorts of general uses. You know, there's a whole plethora of permitted uses within the B1 section that for general use rezoning, which is a neighborhood scale, convenience retail. But the marina overlay limits to what those can be. And that's covered in section 19-999 of the overlay. Their neighborhood commercial uses were limited to things such as bookstores, art galleries, business services, drugstores, financial services like an accounting office or something of that nature. It allows professional office such as administrative, legal services, architectural, engineering, those types of things. It allows government offices. You have to have, it will allow public spaces like a park and some specific marina activities. But there are other uses that are subject to special conditions, such as restaurants, yacht clubs, hotels, or dry boat storage. So those have to have on-site parking that are adequate to accommodate the traffic. They have to have the appropriate number of seating, plus it's a different building code because it's an assembly usage. With this rezoning, it's gone through the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission made a recommendation of approval to address some of the concerns. It is contiguous to a commercial property in the front, but it is indeed located between a residentially zoned building in which the applicant lives and then the adjacent residential property. So you're correct in that it's in between those two uses. The options here are to, you can move forward with this rezoning as recommended by the Planning Commission. You can defer and request that the applicant choose to rezone the residential where they're building, where they're living, as a B1, which again gives you continuity, I think is what one of the things they're asking for, or you can deny it. If the rezoning's denied, the applicant can't come back for 2 years. So, it could be premature at this point. as noted in the comp plan update, this entire area is recommended to become a neighborhood mixed-use district, but those regulations are still being developed at this time. So that's going to take a 6-month to a year process. So that's why the applicant needed to go ahead and move forward with a rezoning versus waiting. Now, the advantage of the mixed use is it does require a master plan. So it requires a master plan for the properties under the applicant's control, should they be redeveloped. So, any other specific questions?
Differences in tax revenue from commercial versus residential?
Commercial is taxed at 6%, residential is taxed at 4%, but it's not based, taxes are not based on zoning. They're based on actual use. So if the house that he's currently living in, even if it's rezoned to B1, he would still only be taxed at the 4% rate because it's only being used as a residence. Zoning has nothing to do with taxes.
So that's one of the requests that we've had conversations about. Can you, since the property owner owns both 28001 and 28002, would he consider rezoning both properties so that there's some consistency as you come up the road from the marina as you come around, versus having one, like skipping one, that being residential, putting the commercial and then residential?
Because it wouldn't matter if he lives there anyway.
Right.
Tax-wise.
So tax-wise, he could rezone, continue living there, still pay property tax like it was residential. So it wouldn't have financial impacts from that standpoint. Then there's been some back and forth in terms of how does that impact property values? If, potential development plans didn't pan out, would it be more beneficial for him to leave it as residential or more beneficial for him to rezone both properties as commercial? I think having both of those properties, at least in the same classification, would be more beneficial to the neighborhood. It provides at least a more smooth transition. As we know, just based on the comp plan update, that the plans for that area are for it to be redeveloped at some point. That process is a bit of a ways out from what we see or what we have control over. But so just trying to think about the neighborhood, listening to some of the concerns from the neighbor that would be directly on the other side of this, and how it might.
Any conversations had with the property owner with the possibility of both?
Yes, so those conversations have taken place, back and forth.
If there's no more questions for me,
Oh, sorry,
No.
Susan, go ahead. Yeah, the conversations back and forth have been, I would say that they've been very good. He's certainly been up for considering it, and, we've had a lot of back and forth in terms of, well, what if this happens? How does that impact this change? Or could we do it this way? Could we do it that way? I shared that, even if he did take both parcels and rezone them as commercial, if one day he decided that his master development plan wasn't going to pan out, I would think it'd be fair for him to come back to city council and request them to be rezoned back to residential. But of course, that's something that, he would have to present to the council that was serving at that time. It's nothing that we can necessarily commit to, but I think it would be a reasonable request. So that's something just to take into consideration.
So let me chime in on something here. So this is a 2-reading required ordinance. So if we do, where both properties are to be done, it can't be done today anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and vote on this one because we still have 30 days. If within a month from now, you, them, whoever decides they want to do both properties, then we just start all over again. But we're going to start all over anyway, right? If we don't do this today, but at least this way we have a month up on everything, the time-wise.
If the property owner submitted a application, petition for rezoning, That would start the clock for the 30-day period, or excuse me, 15-day, correct. 15-day period, and that would be considered as a separate ordinance. So
Right.
you could still move forward with second read on this one at the same time that you would do first read on the other one, should such application come in.
There
Yes,
you
sir.
go. So,
Are we in a position to say it's an all or nothing type scenario?
Council has full control over zoning. It's totally a council decision.
So, and let me just clarify, I don't think that there's anything wrong per se with the request. I just think that there is a more strategic approach to doing it that minimizes the risk to the city in the neighborhood, how it transitions from what it currently looks like to we hope it will transition to in the future. So that's why I've, been trying to work with the homeowner or the property owner, to get him to, think about that and consider the alternative of rezoning both properties, versus just the one right now. Because I believe in the end, that's the intention, is for both of them to be there. I just want the decision to be done now, so it's continuous, so it's not like,
Is there any reasons been given so far, as far as for why this one prior to the other?
Can I get just a quick point of clarification? Mayor, just a moment ago when you were speaking, you said, "I would like to make a motion." Were you making a motion, or was
No.
that just, you were just in part of conversation?
is that what I said? I don't remember saying that, but I'm just part of the conversation.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you, go ahead.
Because is there a scenario where we could table this for a month? He puts his application 15 days, next month, we could vote on it where it's all contiguous and everybody's happy?
so from what I understand, and Susan Britt is the expert here, but from what I understand, the property owner could request to amend his current rezoning application to include the additional parcel. Then that would require a 15-day public notification process. It would go back to the planning commission for approval. Then there would have to be a public hearing again for this rezoning, and then we could do the public hearing, I believe, and planning commission's recommendation after that happens, and council's first vote on it.
Okay, well, I think we did that last month.
The tabling.
We did the public hearing, but if he amends the rezoning application, then the process starts over.
Okay, well, I think we just vote on it and see what happens, but anybody here up for tabling it? I'm not. We vote, we still have 30 days, it still has to pass twice, so even if we vote yes this time, we can still vote no next time. And we can still come up with a new scenario where both do it, but at least this way
It
we
would be a
save 30
separate
days.
ordinance,
We get
but
the-
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can at least get the thing started, does that make sense?
I mean, that makes sense, if that's what council wants.
We could still do all of the above, but.
I
just-
overlooked the fact that it was a first read.
Sorry.
I
Yeah,
said
this is the,
the first read, yeah.
all right. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Any from the audience? Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, I will consider a motion.
I'll do it. Mr. Mayor, members of council, motion to approve the introduction and first reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS 584-09-01-005 28002 Marina Drive from R15 and Marina Overlay District to B1 and Marina Overlay District.
I have a motion, I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any last comments before we vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 4-1. Let's go to, that's just the first reading. It's still not passed. It has to be 2 readings, so we'd have to do this again next month, unless something changes, that we move on to something else. Let's move on to item 7A. It's consideration for approval of letter of credit and the performance labor and material surety agreement for the final plant Trinity Phase 1. At the Monday, January 2nd meeting, the Planning Commission approved the final plat for Trinity at TK Phase 1 contingent upon approval of the letter of credit and performance labor and material surety agreement. Staff has received a letter from the city engineer certifying certain improvements have been installed, and the letter includes an opinion of probable cost to complete the required infrastructure. The required improvements are to be bonded by a letter of credit with a reputable financial institution in the amount of $261,238.81. Any comments or questions?
If I could comment, when Game On was proposed to prior council and the city, and even the current council. There were a lot of promises and assurances as to how that project would be laid out and what it would become. And due to the uncertainty of what it was supposed to be, what it is now, and what it may become, I personally am a little concerned that, as representing the city, as to accept a letter of credit based on $261,000 worth of promises for infrastructure improvements. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I would like to make a motion that we table this issue and give the developer time to help settle some of those issues, concerns between now and next council meeting.
I have a motion to table for 1 month, basically, until the next council meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alicia Dash. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is tabled till the next meeting. Let's go to item number 8, City Manager's Report. Charlie Funderburk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Congratulations again to Mr. Machunas, Mr. Richard, on your elections. Staff and I look forward to working with you both over the next 4 years. I had a lot of stuff in here Heather actually covered as far as the, don't forget to sign up for the February 8th Sweethearts Dance and the get your tickets before they're all sold out for the Taste event. Looking forward to both of those. Should be very, very well attended. Our February meeting with council, just as a reminder, and for those following along at home, will be on Tuesday, February 18th, due to President's Day being holiday on that Monday, which will be our normal meeting date. Spring sports registration, council, I sent y'all, forwarded y'all an email this afternoon from our Parks and Rec director. It ends this Saturday. We are already full in several age groups in sports. We're anticipating being up over north of 1,800 kids this spring. So one of our, if not our largest turnouts. So if you haven't registered yet, definitely get online tonight and try to get that done. Hopefully we've still got space in your kids' age group. SEDNR funds, the water rec funds officially approved by the state delegates. Waiting on the, yes, thank you very much to them. For those that aren't aware, with Senator Clymer, Representatives Pope and Bryant, with their help, we were able to get $120,000 from the SCDNR Water Recreation Fund to replace the pavilion at Windjammer Park. So today we released those bids to, I believe it was 25 commercial contractors that have a business license. We've also advertised it publicly. See where those bids come in at, but with the hope to be able to get this project completed before Windjammer Park becomes busy once again with all the summer activities and ski shows and things of that nature. So,
Charlie?
yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. Regarding the RFP that was submitted, if we still have some comments in terms of things that we would like to see with that $120,000, I know that you said that to us, I believe, today. So if we have additional requests, how should we go about handling that?
Get those to me before the pre-bid meeting on
Okay.
the 13th, because then we can, if that's the direction council wants to go, and as long as it falls within the DNR guidelines as far as what the money can be spent on, we can include that as a bid addendum.
Okay.
Sure thing.
Okay, great. Because I know initially when we were planning this, there was, we didn't know if we'd get the whole
Correct.
$120,000, so there might be a little bit of wiggle room. And did we also allocate a certain percentage of the budget? Did we allocate like $15,000 to
That
this
is correct.
project?
You've got
as well?
$15,000 in your hospitality tax budget to, specific for Windjammer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So if needed, we can
Correct.
rethink through that, or maybe even knowing that the public art policy is coming, is forthcoming.
Right.
That might be something that we can consider.
That one would have, based on what I know on the Water Rec Fund, the art side would definitely have to come out of city funding,
Okay, so
not the
that would be
DNR
on the
funding.
15,000
That is
side?
correct.
Okay.
But depending on where bids come in, with the funds that have been allocated, what we were gonna spend the 15 grand on, additional paved parking, things like that down there. If we're able to capture that with the DNR funds that are coming in, then obviously it frees up that 15,000, no doubt.
Okay, great.
But, yeah, if it's things to do with the building itself, we can cover that as an addendum. We've got the mandatory pre-bid meeting on February 13th. So
Okay.
as long as I've got those comments by then, we can absolutely work to incorporate those.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Inclusive Playground. Fence got delivered today. So thank you, Mr. Machunas, for your help there with Home Depot. I'd like to thank the Home Depot Foundation for their generosity there. Staff's going to start working on getting those installed, start the process this week. We got some volunteers lined up for Saturday to try to work to finish that off. And we are shooting for February 7th as our official ribbon cutting date, waiting to hear back from the special needs director at Fort Mill School District. Our plan is, yes, that is a weekday, it is a Friday, but our plan is to have all the special needs kids from the school district come out, give them first dibs at it, have a great day with them, let them help us cut the ribbon. Waiting to hear back from Ms. Warner on that. If for some reason that date doesn't work, then we'll plan another special date for them at some point in time in the future, and we'll open it up on Saturday, February 8th.
Would that be an afternoon engagement or?
On the 7th, it would be at 10 a.m. That's the time that they've told us works best for their student classes to be able to make that field trip over. But I'm hoping to have all that firmed up by Wednesday, Thursday of this week.
Be sure to
Just
talk
waiting
to the
hear back.
weatherman.
Yeah, is it rain or shine?
The ribbon cutting? I don't know how much longer we can keep the kids out of
I hear ya.
that place. They're getting closer and closer to the orange fence every time they go by it. It's definitely an exciting place. Definitely hats off to the All Play Together folks and really everybody involved. It has been quite the undertaking, but having walked out there and looked at it, I'm excited. Can't wait to open that up. First class facility for the city. So that's exciting stuff there. And then lastly, council, included in your packet was a proposed budget calendar that will try to kick things off March the 4th with your financial advisors as well as your auditor, and then proceeding forward. Again, those are some proposed dates. If y'all could look those over, and if any of those just absolutely will not work, let me know so I can try to adjust. So if maybe y'all could let me know here by first of next week. I would greatly appreciate it. It's definitely more meetings than what we've had in the past. But I know I and staff are excited about going through the process and look forward to working with y'all. We did just start this budget year, and it's definitely time to start planning. So again, you've got those dates in your packet. If you can take a look at those and just shoot me a note. Between now and next Monday, if there are any of those dates that you just absolutely can't make work, then we'll adjust and try to shift that as best we can. All right?
Charlie, will we be discussing the capital budget? Okay, so capital and budget will be both together this year as we evaluate the
correct.
budget?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
just making sure.
Yep.
So we'll be closing Windjammer Park,
During that construction process.
which we expect to be sometime in February.
Probably early to mid-March.
March.
As soon as demolition starts on the existing pavilion is when we'll shut down Windjammer. We'll keep it closed until such time that we finish, until construction's finished, yes.
Wonderful.
So the whole park will be closed or just like the upper half?
During that time of year, I don't know that we'll get much beach users. It's probably going to be easiest just to keep the entire park closed during that process for safety reasons. Yes, ma'am.
And the plan still is to get a new pavilion, which would include a little picnic area, overhead cover,
Yes, sir.
updated restrooms. which
88 accessible restrooms with 2 stalls in each, yes.
2 stalls in each, and then pavement all the way to the top.
Pavement, at minimum, you'll have a paved walking path up to it. And then as much as funds will allow, we'll begin paving the gravel parking lot, working our way up. We won't be able to pave all the way to the building because of the septic tank, but we'll be able to cover the majority of it as funds allow, yes.
Will we also be designating golf cart parking
That
up
is the
there?
plan as we begin paving, is to do designated golf cart spaces, yes, ma'am.
And then, of course, that's not costing us any money except for the 15,000 that we might use out of 100. So we're getting 120 from the state,
That is correct.
which is technically, I guess, our money anyway. It's just
We have,
everybody else
it
gets to
comes from the
pitch in.
gas tax, yes, sir.
Gas
But,
tax.
yeah, a percentage of the new gas tax funds that are collected is the way it was described to me. And they split it up amongst the counties based on the number of registered watercrafts in that county. Based on the total percentage it makes up for the state. And they said that York County is the largest.
Wonderful. So this won't be the last time we get some of these funds.
They've got quite a good chunk of money. I think Rock Hill's planning on going after some for Riverwalk, and we've definitely got some projects, i.e. Catawba Park and the enhancements around the river access that we most certainly could apply for those funds there.
And
No
did
doubt.
we ever get a final cost on the All Play Together playground?
I can get that for you. I don't have it yet. They're financial folks. I mean, all in, total construction was approximately $530,000 total.
Of which, how much was our money?
We put in the match for the PARD grant, and then including the PARD funds. Our match, we put in $12,000, got $30,000 from SCPRT, and then council also allocated another $25,000 out of H-Tax.
Which is coming back
the
to us.
Coca-Cola money, Rock Hill Coca-Cola Bottling Company, big donor for that facility. So they'll be sending those funds to us.
So in
instead
effect,
of
we're
all
getting
money.
a $525,000 park for $12,000.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Not
In
bad.
essence.
Not bad.
Not bad. Good return.
So that's two good parks, and we hardly any of our own money. So it's always great we use somebody else's money. My favorite thing to do.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and one last thing, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we did kind of already talk about it, is the water tower. We talked that it seemed like it started real fast, and all of a sudden it just stopped, the water tower right at Hubert Grant Parkway.
Yes, sir.
Could you fill us in on that?
So all the components are on site. When I last talked to our utilities director mid last week, they're working on assembling getting the lower bowl and upper bowl assembly, and they'll set those up, and then attach them, and then begin all the sanding and painting and all that good stuff. So our goal is that water tower comes online probably midsummer, early to midsummer is when it's fully functional, operational. Yes, sir.
When do you think it'll be, or we can see something that looks like a water tower that's installed? Before
Let
the
me get-
filling and all that kind of
Right,
stuff?
let me get an update for you. I can get that out to you tomorrow, Wednesday. Yes, sir.
No
When-
big
I'll
deal.
double check on that.
When it first comes up, is it gonna be the green color that it
Yes,
already is?
that primer, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then that's just like a primer, and then?
That's correct.
Will that be the color until,
That'll be the color
design is
until we decide what color that y'all want it painted. Paint it white, whatever, and whatever design that ends up going on it. Yes, ma'am.
okay.
But it'll stay the primer until we tell them, and then they'll curtain it and paint it.
All right, any other questions or comments for Charlie? All right, let's go to councilman comments. Gosh, every time we get to start with Ryan.
I know. Congratulations, Gus, Mr. Mayor Pro Tempore. Honor and a pleasure to work with all of you. You guys are fortunate to have a group of council, these guys that love and care about the city so much. So good to see you all. And again, congrats, Gus. You deserve it.
Alicia?
Since this is our first meeting after the new year, Happy New Year to everyone, although we're at the end of January. Actually, the best day of the year, almost.
Oh, that's right, it's
The
Alicia's
27th.
birthday.
I mean,
That's right.
yes.
I told her happy birthday earlier, but I just want to announce to everybody else, it's her 29th birthday.
Yeah, 29, the big 29. Not far off from that, but. Congrats to Gus and Ryan. I know that you guys are gonna work so hard for us, and I'm so excited to be sitting up here with you guys, so. Wanted to just say that given, that I have a cough today, I'm just gonna do a public service announcement to everyone. Reminder, it's flu season. If you haven't gotten your flu shot, go get your flu shot. Wash your hands after you use the bathroom, go in public places, all that kind of stuff. We do not want to spread any germs around TK any more than they already are. We want to keep our schools open. So just a reminder, be safe. And I know that Heather's going to talk about a work plan discussion that we've shared with City Council. And so I look forward to that conversation. And I think that's all I got. So
All right,
with
Heather?
that-
Oh, she woke up.
Moved up a level. Happy birthday, Alicia. Congratulations, Ryan and Gus. 4 more years. Buckle up. I'm just kidding.
over the holidays, Alicia and I met and kind of hashed out some goals, some strategic goals that we want to hopefully accomplish this year. And whatever we don't accomplish this year, at least put some solid plans in place so that we can focus on those going into next year. I've shared a lot of these verbally with the city manager, but I have the work plan that I want to give to you tonight, just so you have it. So as you start to meet with your department heads and work towards our budget planning season, these can be part of the conversation. Appreciate council giving me the feedback. They are a little bit enthusiastic, I believe was the word. So that's okay. We're going to work hard. But I think it's important, we can't just scream into the air and hope that something gets accomplished, or pound our fists on the table and say, we demand that this happens. It's going to take all of us working together, staff, council. If these are the priorities and these are the goals that we want to accomplish, then we really need all hands on deck. But I think we can do it if we work together. So I'll pass that down, and I think that's it.
All right, new Mayor Pro Tem, Gus Muchinas.
All right. To quote one of the greatest movies of all time, The Blues Brothers, we're putting the band back together. So congratulations to you, Ryan. It's really cool that we both got elected to another term, and that with the 5 of us will be up here for at least another 2 years together. Humbled and honored that the city voted us into this position, and we don't take that lightly, not any one of us. Extremely excited about All Play Together Park getting ready to open. I'm going to reiterate what Charlie said. Thank you to the Home Depot Foundation. That was a very generous donation. And David, yes, you're right. Having a park like that built with very little of our own money is incredible. The drone shots over top of it are just crazy to see, and I'm really excited about that opening up. And also, when we do Taste of York, now the money can go towards Catawba Park, and we can start getting that off the ground. So thank you once again, everybody, and that's all for me.
Thank you. And I just want to re-congratulate Ryan and Gus for 4 more years minus 27 days. And Alicia on her birthday once more. And if there's nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, if I can, real quick, before
Yes.
you do that,
Yes, sir.
we do have cake and refreshments
Oh,
and
we
whatnot,
do?
little reception.
Is there enough for everybody? If you don't have enough for everybody, don't bring it.
I think we've got enough to cover what we have here tonight, sir.
And I just want to make one last note. Katie, it's been 1 hour and 3 minutes. I'm closest. The bet was a Jeep. So I can't wait to drive it.
And I just want to make a clarification. The reception is for Ryan and Gus, not for my birthday party.
Oh. That's not fair. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No, we're adjourned.